Okay, so today we're joined by Craig Morgan from APHNX, probably with the best stuff about coyotes on the internet. How are you doing, sir?
Great. How you doing, Michael?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of good. The first time we actually had a talk and actually went to hell due to technical reasons the first time. And actually that was probably still the off season, right? So we're really not sure.
It was a while ago.
We're really not sure what to expect, and I was really optimistic about our potential record, which was kind of stupid of me considering the situation the Coyotes are in now. But before we begin, so how about that Leo Draisaitla situation? I mean, do you kind of foresee? Do you can see the war on press coming, like the war between players and the press? What do you think about it?
I think that's a unique situation up in Edmonton. I've heard from a lot of people that Draisaitl and McDavid probably need to be better with media. On the flip side of that, I thought that the reporter was unprofessional. When you ask a question like, why are you so pissy, that's simply not a question a reporter should ever ask. That's unprofessional. It crosses a line. It never should have gotten to that point. And I'd have a problem. If I were the Oilers media relations department, I'd have a real problem with that reporter because of the way he handled that situation.
Yeah, this is true. Also, but on the other side, I was thinking maybe just because the new generation players like McDavid or Draisaitl or Matthews are, well, to put it bluntly, little spoiled shits. And sometimes they just can't behave, and when they're losing, they just can't handle stuff, and they're really not get used to people criticizing them. It's like I can see it in like for example in Edmonton. I mean, I truly believe there's not one person that ever said anything bad to Connor McDavid, for example. He's like a god there, yeah. Right? So I don't know. Maybe it's just like they just can't behave, and maybe the reporter simply lost it, which is weird because that's a really, really experienced guy, right?
Yeah, it is. But that there's a lot of history with a couple reporters up there in Edmonton and the team as well. There's a lot of backstory to that. They don't necessarily get along with some of those reporters. The thing I would say about Draisaitl and McDavid, look, Jim Matheson, the reporter, was asking him for reasons why the Oilers were struggling, and Leon Draisaitl didn't want to throw his teammates under the bus, so he said he wasn't going to elaborate on that. I get that. And look, when you're a reporter covering that team, you already know what the problems are. In fact, the coach has already said it in a previous press conference that goaltending is a huge issue up there, and it has been with Mikko Koskinen, who has not played well at all. So in a way, it's just like, what do you want to do? You want to get the players to say what you already know? It's pretty obvious to people what the issues are. The roster is poorly constructed. It's too top heavy. They didn't find their goaltender in the offseason because Darcy Kemper went to Colorado instead of Edmonton. They really wanted him. Yeah. So you've got the issues that you've got. But the issues are not Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Those two guys are, when they're slumping, they're still producing at a point per game. It's crazy. You didn't expect them to continue to produce at 2 points per game. They got to get contributions from other people in that lineup.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I really cheer for Mikko Koskinen. I was probably the only person on the planet that truly believed that he's going to make its way back to the NHL at some point, which he did. But I never said he's a starting goalie material. He never was, and he never will be that. Yeah, but okay, I know we don't have much time, so we're trying to keep it short. And Edmonton Oilers are probably not making the playoffs, just like the Coyotes. But
unbelievable, huh?
Yeah.
They'll probably win the lottery again, right?
Probably, yeah. So, they probably just bring up another rental like Taylor Hall, right? So, okay, so there's a lot of things happening around the Coyotes as always, and actually even in Poland, these teams, because of that, the teams actually become a little interesting. It's not just Hurricanes that have problems with money. It's not just Panthers. Obviously, it's also the Coyotes, but the most important question is, do we have place to play next season, or will we have? Or what do we do if that Tempe thing doesn't work out? And because okay, just one question at a time. So.
Yeah, I can dive into all the arena details. I've been talking about it so much that I can roll through all of it. Listen, we don't know yet what the Tempe City Council is going to decide. I do know that the Coyotes are going to present them with an economic benefit analysis by the end of the month. That will give them a lot more information, a lot more details on what they might gain by going ahead with this project. I don't think the council really has enough information right now to make a decision. So once they get that information, we'll have a better idea of what they're thinking. I've been told by some people that we could see a vote as soon as early February, but who knows? If they get the analysis and they decide they need more information, they may have to go back to the table. We'll see how that plays out. As far as what they do if it doesn't go through, that's a really good question, Michael, because Glendale has already kicked them out, and I know some people still believe it's a negotiating ploy. I do not. I don't think there's any chance they're going back to Glendale unless they're willing to sign like a 15 to 20-year lease agreement. Maybe they do that if Tempe says no and they don't have any other options. But, keep all that in mind. As far as the interim solution, where they play for the next few seasons, even if Tempe does get approved, it's going to take 3 or 4 years to build that arena. So they've been looking at a number of options locally. I've written about all those, whether it's Veterans Memorial Coliseum or even a smaller venue like a 5,000-seat stadium, which the NHL has told me they're not opposed to. I was shocked by that, to be honest, that they would allow NHL games in such a small building, but they said they're not opposed to it. So I think the Coyotes are probably going to have an announcement, pretty soon. I would expect sometime in February we're going to find out what their interim arena solution is.
Wow, because I was actually thinking that probably Gila River Arena is actually kind of a bargaining here, or they're just trying to play the Coyotes in some way. I don't think they have many better options right now. This is a bad location for an arena. It is. It really is. And I was there, and I can tell, actually. It's really not a good location for an arena. It's so far from the city center. It's so far from basically everything. And so I don't think Gila River Arena has like many better options than the Coyotes, but and actually, so could we say, is it fair to say that that Gary Bettman is our sugar daddy?
Yeah, I think it's been fair to say that for many years. If Gary Bettman weren't so committed to this market, this team could have left a long time ago. So, when Coyotes fans look at the biggest reasons why they still have a franchise, or the biggest people behind it, it's a short list, right? It's Gary Bettman, it's Shane Doan, it's my friend Matt Schott, unfortunately, who just died, the director of hockey development, who's done so much to develop youth hockey in this state. There's a very short list, but Gary Bettman is right at the top. And clearly, if the league doesn't have an appetite for Phoenix anymore, the Coyotes could be somewhere else.
But why exactly? Why Bettman is so committed to us? I mean,
I think part of it is it's a very large media market. First of all, he understands. TV rights are a big part of this, and TV rights holders want the biggest markets in the country to be a part of this. Now, you could say, well, what about Houston? Houston's actually the only market out there in the U.S. or Canada that's bigger than Phoenix. Yeah, that's a possibility, but if you follow the money and you look at what the NHL has done recently, they're not going to move a team to Houston. They're going to expand to Houston when they're ready to expand again, because expansion fees are just out of this world. So you can make a lot more money for all of the owners. All the owners understand that. So keep Houston in the bank as a potential relocation, expansion option, excuse me. The other side of Phoenix is it's growing. It's still one of the fastest growing cities in the country. So you see this immense potential if you could just get things right here.
Yeah.
The location, as you mentioned, has been the major stumbling block. Look, this team, when they were downtown at America West Arena, they were drawing between 14 and 15,000 fans a night. They were successful. It was energetic. It was great to cover games down there. It's just it's the wrong location, as you mentioned. They can't get people to drive out that far. And when you're talking about season ticket holders, the large base of their premium season ticket holders is on the east side of town. Glendale's on the northwest side of town. It's like 75% of their premium season ticket holders are on the east side of town. That's where Tempe is. So you're in this corridor, this cultural nexus between downtown Phoenix, downtown Tempe, and downtown Scottsdale, you're right there. You're, like a 5-minute, 10-minute drive from all these areas. You're right by the airport. It's the perfect location for them.
Wow. So fingers crossed. I mean, Jesus, because I'm so sick of this whole arena drama, and I mean, I
you
can,
and me both, brother.
Yeah, yeah. Well, every year I hear about this and like move them already and blah blah blah, and all those like Canadian shit has let's move them to Quebec, like that's happening.
Right. Yeah,
But
exactly.
but yeah, all right. So we lost 4-0 last night, which was kind of to be expected. But recently we haven't been as bad as we should be, as weird as that sounds. And maybe it's not such a bad thing, but I've been thinking that it's just a matter of some young players just that developing quicker than expected. You look at, for example, Moser. You look at Mayo, for example. So Vejmelka, of course, who's been the story of the season, because I mean this guy was supposed to suck real bad. Not only did he beat Kojenash, who's really struggling in Tucson right now, but he's like rocking the NHL. And I don't know. What do you think about that? On those young players, is it going the right direction, or is it too slow, too fast? Or?
I think, well, just to start with what you said about them, maybe having a little too much success for their own good lately, it's a tough balance, right? You strip this roster down so that you could get a very high draft pick. So you don't want to climb too high in the standings where you end up picking 5th in the 2022 draft. That's not what this is about. Mm-hmm. They really want a top 2 pick, let's be honest. That's where, if you look at Pittsburgh, if you look at Chicago, if you look at Tampa, all the multiple cup winners over the past 10 years or 15 years, they got their players right at the top of the draft, the core pieces at the top of the draft, whether you're talking about Crosby, Malkin, or Kane, Taves. Mm-hmm. You're talking about Stamkos, or Braden Point was an unbelievable draft pick. But you got to get those guys in the draft, right? So they want to draft as high as possible. They've got a lot of draft picks. That helps. They've got the volume to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes in the draft because you're drafting 17 and 18-year-old kids. But they've got the volume. They want to be as high as possible. What I would say is, look, they're still very close to Montreal. To me, I still think this is going to be a 4, maybe 5 team race for that top pick between Montreal, the Coyotes, Ottawa, Seattle, and maybe Buffalo, if Buffalo really, really falls near the end of the season. So they're still in position, and the Coyotes are going to trade some pieces at the trade deadline. So they're not going to be as good as this soon. So all that's coming. But when you talk about those young players and you talk about a rebuild, what you want to accomplish, not only do you want to draft those elite pieces that are the core pieces of your roster, you have to have depth to fill in around. So when you see a guy like Janis Moser coming over and really having success, you say, okay, there's a piece that's going to fit into their blue line for the future, a depth piece that's really going to help them. When you see Karel Vejmelka come over and have success, whether he rises to the level of starting goalie or not, if he's a number 2, you need 2 goalies in this league. So those are the kind of pieces that you have to fill in around those core pieces. Otherwise, you don't have success. Otherwise, you have the situation like we just talked about in Edmonton, where you have a top-heavy roster, but they don't have the depth to push them far in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. So who do you think is leading the Coyotes, and besides Phil Kessel? Because, I mean, recently I heard a Drop in the Gloves podcast with John Scott, and he was actually rumbling on the Coyotes. He was actually giving us a really hard time if we even think about trading Chychrun, which for me is also unthinkable. I mean, how do we trade Jacob Chychrun, and is it really possible that we do it?
Yeah, I think it's possible, but as you've probably heard, the asking price is really high for Jacob Chychrun. I think Pierre LeBrun and Darren Dreger have both called it a Jack Eichel-esque haul for him. They want that kind of return. So if you're a general manager, you have to listen to teams when they call you about a player, right? It's your job to try and improve your team no matter what. And all this talk started back when the Islanders called in the offseason to see if Chychrun was available. They wanted to improve their blue line. Well, once that word gets out, every GM starts calling Bill Armstrong, and he has to listen. but he sets his price. And as we've seen with Bill Armstrong, he doesn't budge off his price. He didn't budge with Darcy Kemper. He didn't budge with Christian Dvorak. He didn't budge with Vancouver when they shipped Oliver Ekman-Larsson out of here, and he had to, he wanted them to take on that salary. So he sticks to his asking price. If nobody's willing to meet it, Jakob Chychrun won't go anywhere. But if he gets that kind of haul, he has to at least look at it. Here's what I'd say, too, about that situation. With Jakob Chychrun, he's clearly struggled this season. He hasn't looked anything like the player he did last year. Maybe this is just part of the growth process because he's still a very young player, and being a number one defenseman on a team is, in my opinion, the hardest job on the ice in the NHL. That is a tough position.
Sure thing. Yeah.
So maybe he can get there, but right now we're seeing Jakob Chychrun's defensive game exposed a bit. He has not been good defensively this season. So, maybe that's part of this. If you're looking at him now and you're thinking maybe he's not that number one defenseman, maybe he's more like a number three defenseman that needs to be sheltered. He can give you offense, but he's not going to be a matchup guy. If you can get that kind of haul, you have to think about it. And then the last thing to think about here, Michael, I'll bring up two more points. One is there are a lot of sellers right now in the market. The Eastern Conference playoff picture is basically decided. So you've got 7-8 teams already out of the playoffs, and you've got 3 more in the West. If all those teams are flooding the market with potential defensemen as well, a GM may look at that and say, I'm not so sure I want to pay that steep a price. Maybe I'll just go one notch down and get a player below Jakob Chychrun and not have to pay that kind of crazy price. That might hurt the trade market for the Coyotes. So we'll see how that all plays out. I do think that's going to have an impact. And the last thing is, what does Jakob Chychrun want? It has been really difficult for him to adjust to this new role. They had a very veteran-laden defense before. You're talking about Alex Goligoski as partner. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was here. Jason Demers was here. Nicholas Hjalmarsson was here. They had a lot of veterans around him to support him. They don't have that now, and it's been really tough on him. And now he's looking at being in a rebuild for like the next 3 seasons that are coming in the prime of his career. Does he really want to sacrifice all of those years without a chance of winning on this team, or does Jakob Chychrun want to play for a team right now that has a better chance of winning? I don't blame any player who wants to go somewhere where they can win. Careers are finite in the NHL. They don't last that long. And if you're asking a guy to give up 3 years of his prime without a chance of winning, that's a tough sell. I can't blame a player if they want to be somewhere else instead.
I never heard one word about Jakob Chychrun potentially not wanting to play for the Coyotes. But I guess you're right. He's a young player, and right now, well, it's safe to say that Shane Gostisbehere is our best defenseman by far right now, and he's been.
And that's when you bring that up. Here's another interesting thing. People look at Jakob Chychrun's offense, right? Jakob Chychrun has a heck of a shot. He is a weapon when you get him in the offensive zone because he's got a booming shot and an accurate shot. But watch the way Gostisbehere and Chychrun carry the puck through the neutral zone. Is Jakob Chychrun even a great defenseman off the rush? I think he can be really good in that situation when he's off the puck, when he's joining the rush and you find him in the right spot. Shane Gostisbehere, to me, is the kind of player who can carry the puck through the neutral zone. He's shown a better ability than Jakob. So it's interesting to see that comparison as well.
So do you think Shane Gostisbehere is going?
No. I don't think they will trade him this year. He's got another year left on his deal, but next season, if he's still playing at this level, you can look for them to move Shane Gostisbehere as well at the trade deadline because he'll have a lot of value. A lot of teams obviously want an offensive defenseman who can create plays and run a power play.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he could really like it here because he came down here to kind of prove himself again, right? And he's been more than doing that, especially like. When I listen to like Flyers fans and Flyers podcasts, you can hear them like mumbling about Gostisbehere and oh wow great we got rid of Gostisbehere, but hey we got Keith Yandel who's basically doing nothing right now. So
except chasing the consecutive games played streak, right? Exactly.
Speaking of that, that's been pissing me off. That's one thing that I'm angry with when it comes to Phil Kessel. Because he will play with any injury, and he played with a knee injury, right, or some kind of injury for one entire season just to prolong his Ironman streak, which to me is like I call BS. I mean that's terrible thing to like you play no matter what, even you're like half useless for the team, but you want to keep your personal stats. I mean, I don't like it. What do you think about it?
Here's what I'd say about that, and I agree with you. There have been times when Phil Kessel should have come out of the lineup where he was too hurt to play, and he played through it. On the one hand, that's just Kessel's mentality. He wants to play. He wants to be out there. So it's hard to knock a guy for that desire, but you have to balance that with, are you hurting your team by being on the ice?
Exactly.
But that's really the coach's decision, right? And I think, yeah, and listen, Rick Tocchet will deny it, and I talk to Rick Tocchet all the time, but Rick Tocchet and Phil Kessel are close, and I think that friendship sometimes clouded Rick Tocchet's judgment when deciding whether or not to put Phil Kessel in the lineup.
Wow, that really doesn't resemble Tippett Smith situation at all. I mean, no, no, that's not.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure if Coach Tippett is still around the NHL in like 10 years, I'm pretty sure he's going to sign like Mike Smith the 1-year contract. Seriously, that's going to happen. And probably Mike Smith will be in shape, but
yeah, it's crazy that Edmonton's still relying on him. But then again, like I said earlier, they tried to get Darcy Kemper and didn't get him. To me, at that point, it's on Ken Holland to go out and get another goalie because they knew their goaltending situation wasn't enough to win a cup.
Yeah. And if Smith stayed healthy, I mean, that would work probably. I mean, Smith's been awesome.
But he can't stay healthy.
But
Look at his age. Yeah,
that's not gonna happen. Plus, not the best attitude in the league. So he's not like the greatest personality there is, right? Hey, so speaking of people that could get traded, my favorite Coyote, Lawson Krause. I mean, is he going or not? Because I think, like, for me, that's just my opinion. Arizona's been like his real home, and I can see him like playing for the Coyotes till he's like 40, like entire career here in Arizona. So and right now he's like what? He's got like 20 points. That's been a really, really good season for him, and he turned from this like fourth line enforcer to kind of a power forward kind of player, which is great. And Liam O'Brien took his role. So, what do you think? What do you think about it? I hope he stays, but does he?
I'm gonna report on this very soon. So I guess I'm gonna break a little news on your podcast here, Michael.
Great.
I don't think Lawson Krause is getting traded. I really
Amen.
don't. There's been a lot of talk about him. I know he's high on everybody's trade board, but when you look at the Coyotes system, they don't really have anybody who looks like Lawson Krause, first of all. And when you look at the type of player he is, a guy who's big, who has speed, who can give you some offense, who is sound in all facets of the game, that's the blueprint for the type of team that Bill Armstrong wants to build. That's the blueprint for the St. Louis Blues. So Lawson Krause is exactly the type of player that Bill Armstrong wants. He's young and he's cost controlled. He's only a restricted free agent this year, so they have a lot of control over what he gets paid. I don't see Lawson Krause going anywhere. I don't agree at all with all these trade speculations that I see out there.
And did he give you any impression that he wants to be traded or whatever? I mean,
no.
He seems like he's really happy in Arizona. I mean.
But he's thriving, right? When you look, we just talked about Jacob Chychrun, and I don't know why Jacob Chychrun hasn't been able to put it together. It's a tougher role, as I said. Yeah. It's a tougher role, what he's in. But Andre Tourigny has gotten a lot out of Lawson Krause, and he's gotten a lot out of Clayton Keller, too. Both those guys are really, really progressing. So I can see Lawson Krause being a part of this team for a very long time.
Oh, that's great. I mean, he's my favorite Coyote by far, and he's a workhorse. I mean, such a hard-working player, and he's trying really his best each and every night. And I really hope he's not. Of course, he's not playing at the level that he should have when he got traded, right? I mean, drafted, well, because the hopes for him were obviously higher and stuff. But he's not like Kyle Chipchura kind of player, right? Right now he's thriving. He's doing it all, and he's not fighting anymore. Which is a good thing in this case. I mean, he is one tough customer, but right now he needs to play physical and he needs to stay on the ice. So I say great. Speaking of Liam O'Brien, I mean, I love the guy. He's like the Game of Thrones kind of guy, right? He looks Jesus. He looks seriously. He looks like the
Tormund,
giant dwarf or something. I don't know, but. To me, I mean, and he fights, which I love, and I'm all for. But he's also taking really dumb shit penalties. I mean, I know it's good for us losing, but it's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to be rude or anything, but it seems like he's not well, let's put it that way. His hockey IQ is not the highest.
Yeah, I would agree with you that he's been taking some bad penalties. And I don't, early in the season, I thought he gave them a lift with some of that physical play. But lately, I don't see Liam O'Brien contributing much. I mean, yeah, he throws in the odd fight. And I have my own thoughts about how impactful fights are. I guess there are times where they matter. But a lot of times he's just fighting for the sake of fighting. And I don't think it's really having an impact on the team. And he's taken those penalties, as you mentioned, that are hurting the team. So I don't think he's really contributed much lately, and I think that's part of the reason why you've seen him in and out of the lineup. I don't know that he's been very valuable to the team lately. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah, I would agree because I think he I don't know, he's obviously like the enforcer, the tough guy kind of player right now. But for example, it's not like we're having this Curtis McDermott or Nick Delorier kind of player, right? When they drop the gloves and you know that Earth is about to shake and like it's gonna be like heavyweight title bout or something, right? And Liam Bryan's just that the kind of player, and I would agree that sometimes he fights and it's really pointless, and then he's like shouting to his partners, something to his teammates, blah, blah, which doesn't really make much sense because it's like it's not a place or a time. He can't feel the right moment. He can pick his moment for pick up fights or something. I like the guy because I like fighting. He's a fighting leader. Right now he's got like 9 fights, which is probably most in the NHL right now. And I like that, but I think it's not the kind of enforcer kind of thing he's doing. He's just doing that for himself. So I would probably agree that he's really not contributing much right now. Hey, but speaking of, but he's a transition player, right? I don't think he's sticking around for very long, right? I mean,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but is our coach also a transition kind of coach? Is it a coach that is just hired to be losing? Because for me, he seems like he's really, really good with the youngsters. But on the other hand, is he a coach that's going to be here for, I don't know, is he a part of the plan or the process, or is he just a transition coach?
It's a really good question, Michael, and I don't have an answer for you yet. When I look at Andre Tourigny, first of all, he came in with his eyes wide open. He knew exactly what the situation was, and Bill Armstrong told him he was going to have some leeway. Look, we're not going to bring you in and then fire you after 2 seasons and blame you for it, because there's no blame to lay on this other than the fact that they're embarking on a rebuild. They don't expect to win, so they don't expect their coach to work miracles. What they want to see from Andre Tourigny is him developing a culture here. And I think you've seen that because this team is still playing hard, even though they're way out of the race. You take that Montreal game, for instance, when Montreal came here. I mean, Montreal just looked like they were completely disinterested in the game. They had no structure, and the Coyotes were playing hard. That you can balance those two things against each other. Andre's got his team playing hard. So we'll see how it all goes. I don't know how you build a culture when you have so many players moving out of the lineup. Like all these veterans that they brought in, they're going to be gone in 2 years, so you don't have that culture anymore. But maybe they instill it on the guys that are still here, like Lawson Krause, like Clayton Keller, like some of these other players, and maybe they're able to carry it over. The one thing that I want to see more from Andre, and listen, when you look at the Coyotes, and if you're trying to win, and all coaches and players are still trying to win no matter what the roster looks like,
of course,
you got to figure out the best way to win. To me, the Coyotes still need to defend better. I don't think they're defending as well as they could. Their net front defensive play is not very good. They need to improve on that, and that's coaching. That's got to be drilled into them. If the Coyotes are going to win games, by and large, it's going to be 2-1 games, or maybe 3-2 games if they can get 3 goals in a game. They're not going to score a lot. So you've got to play really sound defensive hockey. That's how they should be playing, and I haven't seen them take that step to be a really good defensive team yet, or at least have the fundamentals yet, and that's something that you need to see from coaching.
I was also wondering, how do you actually make the team lose? I mean, you don't. I don't think it's like, because in Polish hockey, well, you can do basically everything here, because that's just this Polish league is actually kind of a shithole, and that's a really real mess. But the thing is, I was thinking, is it like, it's not like Bill Armstrong is on a meeting with Andre Tourigny, I say, hey, let's make those guys suck, okay? Like every time, I think the plan is to give him like a really kind of bad players to work with and see him try his best, right? It's not like the coach is gonna come, and it's not like a Mighty Ducks movie, right? Like he's gonna teach them to kind of cheat and to lose or whatever, right? That's not how it looks like, because that's not how you build a culture, right? I don't think you can come to Lawson Krause and say, hey, listen, we get to be losing. Yeah, probably Lawson Krause would reply with something like, yeah, okay, so fuck you, I want to be traded, right?
Right. Yeah. No, then that's accurate. And Bill has even said that. He said, I'm never going to discourage a coach or players from having the opportunity to win. You never want to take them away that opportunity. He wants to see them play hard. Again, he wants to see that structure, that culture being driven into the players and established in the organization. But how do you try to lose? Well, you can't do it with coaches and players, because they're wired to win, and everybody expects them to play to win. Even a GM, he knows they're going to play to win. What the GM does is he strips the roster down so that they don't have enough to work with, that no matter how hard they play, they're still going to be at the bottom of the standings. And that's what's played out here. And as we get closer to the trade deadline, we've talked about some of maybe the success the Coyotes have had that you don't want them to have right now. Mm-hmm. Well, there are going to be more pieces. There are going to be more pieces moving on. They're going to trade more players. So this roster is going to get worse after the trade deadline. And that's another way that you sink again in the standings.
Wow, isn't that great? Jesus. One time they're playing good and you have to be worried about it. I mean, jeez. But some games actually have been real fun this season, right? I know it's only like 9 wins or something. And it's kind of
got to double digits. They're at 10 now.
Oh, 10. Oh, wow.
They cracked double digits.
Let's plan a parade. Oh.
Seriously. Yeah.
But yeah, seriously. And some games were really fun, like the Montreal with Toronto, when actually Vejmelka actually trolled the entire Maple Leaf team. I mean, and that's crazy. And like, yeah, let's switch to goaltending for a couple of minutes, because Carter Hutton is not playing, and because of injury, but I don't really want him back on the lineup, because I know we're supposed to suck, but God, that guy took it to another level. I mean,
yeah, I don't think he was ever healthy, Michael. That's part of the problem. That surgically repaired ankle, I don't think it was ever right. And that's the problem now. That's what's keeping him out of the lineup. I don't know what's going to happen with Carter Hutton the rest of the season. They're being pretty tight-lipped, but I have wondered if he's actually going to play another game for the Coyotes this season. We'll see. I think we'll have a much better picture after the All-Star break of what their plan is for him. But, he practices on occasion and then he vanishes for a while. He's still on injured reserve. Again, I don't know if he's going to play again. And if he doesn't, then that means you're going with Vejmelka and Scott Wedgwood for the rest of the season. And it's been an okay tandem. Vejmelka's been very good. Wedgwood started strong, hasn't played as well lately, but you can get through the rest of the season with those two guys. So we'll see how that plays out. The interesting thing for me, look, Scott Wedgwood clearly is not a part of the future here. Yeah. But Karel Vejmelka, I think when you evaluate him, it's really promising what he's done so far, and it's a testament to their scouting staff that, after Nashville drafted him so long ago and he got buried again in the Czech Republic, everybody forgot about him. They went and found him, brought him over, and he's had some success. But I don't think you can really evaluate what Karel Vejmelka will be in the NHL for a full year. Until the NHL gets a book on him, they get the scouting report on him, they understand his weaknesses and how to pick him apart, we really won't know what they have in him. And then he has to make adjustments to what the NHL adjusts to, right? It's this cat and mouse game. But after a year, I think the NHL will really know what his strengths and weaknesses are, and then we'll see if Vejmelka can adjust to that and become, a contributor for the long term with the Coyotes.
Sure. It's always, for a European fan, it's always funny how you guys said, like, somebody gets buried in Europe or something, and it's like everybody forgot about it. Like, hey, Vejmelka won 2 Czech League Cups. I mean, he was champion twice. Yeah. And actually, being a Czech League champion is actually kind of a big deal. It's one of the strongest leagues in the world, and actually, it's an NHL player factory. So, but it's always funny, like, for me as an NHL fan, if someone goes to Europe, oh God, he must suck real bad, like he has to play in Europe. Oh Jesus, I mean, God, they're playing in Sweden, in Finland, in really strong leagues. I mean, it's not a place for everyone, or I don't know, even KHL, right? Of course, it's not.
And what's interesting about his story too is when Nashville drafted him, they wanted him to come over and play in the AHL or maybe even the ECHL, and he said, "No, I'm going to develop better in the Czech league." And he may have had a really good point there. And that's ultimately why Nashville was never able to get him over, and he became available again as a free agent. So the Coyotes bring him over. And listen, all of us thought he was going to be in the AHL, splitting or even backing up Ivan Prosvetov. And then he has this terrific training camp, beats out Kozhinash, who, is now the backup in Tucson. And here he is, one of the best stories, probably the best story for the Coyotes, alongside the emergence of Clayton Keller.
Also, I wanted really like Adin Hill to prove you wrong, and he started real good. I was really hoping like he could even get the starting job on the Sharks, but yeah, that's not happening, is it?
No, it's not. And listen, I talked to a lot of people around the league, scouts, executives, and the opinion on Adin Hill is he's a number 3 goalie. And the scouting report on Adin Hill, it's funny. Adin Hill had a shutout last season, and the next game, a scout came up to me and said, you know what they're going to do tonight? I think it was the Kings that they were playing, because he had shut out Vegas. They're playing the Kings, and the scout says, watch the Kings. They're going to shoot at his gloves, because that's the scouting report on Adin Hill. Shoot at the gloves. Sure enough, the Kings scored 3 goals shooting at Adin Hill's gloves that night.
Oh, geez.
So that's what I'm talking about with Vejmelka as well. Scouts will pick a guy apart when they have enough time to watch him and find out his tendencies, his strengths, and his weaknesses. And that was the book on Adin Hill, and that's why I know a lot of Coyotes fans were upset. They thought Adin Hill was going to be this great goalie. And listen, he may still be, but the opinion around the league on Adin Hill is not of a number 1 goaltender, and yet Bill Armstrong got a 2nd-round draft pick for a backup goaltender. That's an unbelievable trade.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
That's amazing. But I was really hoping that he could make something out of his chance in San Jose, but that's not really working out real well for him. But about Vejmelka, I would probably say the same, because the nature of the Czech league is that they really don't shoot that often on the high glove. And I think Vejmelka's high glove is still a bit of an issue right now, I would say. He's really fast, and it seems like he's really self-confident, and it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, that was a guy that came out of basically from nowhere. He was not supposed to even like make the roster, right? Everybody kind of expected him to like play it in the training camp and then like go back to Czech Republic or whatever. And right now he's basically made so much more than was expected of him. But I would say that the high glove is still his issue. So what do you think is like what's his kryptonite?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that issue that you're talking about. They love his personality. They love how calm he is. That's obviously a personality you want in a goaltender. He doesn't talk a lot. Andre Tourigny actually jokes about it. It's all good, coach. That's all he says. He just doesn't talk much. He stays pretty calm and collected in the net. In terms of where he needs work, I agree with you. That's one of the areas. I see him at times just getting too busy in the net. He gets himself out of position where he's moving too much side to side. He's got to settle into the blue paint a little more, or he's going to get exposed backdoor, things like that. He gets himself out of position in those games where he's not on, and teams will figure that out as well. So those are some of the things that they're going to need to work on with him.
Mm-hmm, sure. Okay, so I think we're almost finished, because I know you don't have much time. So I kind of have to stick to that. But one more question. Like 5 players that's going to be gone by the trade deadline. Who you're thinking? Besides Kessel, I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, Phil Kessel's on that list without a doubt. I don't know where to sit on Jacob Chychrun, because, again, it's going to take a crazy offer. Is somebody willing to pay that offer?
What about
maybe
Christian Fischer?
I don't know.
He's not really. He's basically invisible.
Yeah, but here's the flip side of it. What do you get for Christian Fischer? Is it worth trading him? Because are you going to get anything in return? I don't know that you will, because of his production. They love the energy he brings to the. I know Andre Tourigny loves the energy he brings to the room, and you need guys like that. So he's also a restricted free agent, so you have cost control on him. Maybe you keep a guy like that around. When you look at who might be available, you start looking at the guys that are on expiring contracts. And you mentioned Phil Kessel already. Jacob Chychrun, I don't know. But then you have some other players on the roster. Like I look at a guy like Johan Larsson, who I think is a very, very valuable piece for teams. He can play lower in the lineup. He brings grit. He's strong defensively. He can sustain a forecheck. He does a lot of things I think that's a guy that a lot of teams might look at, and you don't have to give up a lot to get him at the trade deadline. So that's a guy I'd put on this list. I would have put Jay Beagle on that list, but now he's hurt and probably going to miss the season. So he's not going to be going anywhere. As far as the others, again, it all depends on what teams are looking for. I don't know. I don't know that some of their veterans are going to draw much interest because they're guys that came here for a reason. They were salary dumps. Teams weren't interested in him. Andrew Ladd has revived his career a little bit. Does somebody want to take a chance on him as a fourth-line player with great leadership skills? He's been a captain. Maybe that's a guy that you look at as well. Mm-hmm. And another guy that I'd look at who's having a career season and has really shown that he can have a permanent place in an NHL lineup is Travis Boyd. He's got 10 goals this season. Nobody saw that coming from Travis Boyd.
Yeah.
He's played in the number one center position at times this year. Part of that is because the Coyotes don't have center depth. They've had injuries. But Travis Boyd has had himself quite a season, so he's a guy who could draw interest as well.
But by the way, that reminds me, why the hell did Liam O'Brien play in the first line ever on the Coyotes? And there were games when he actually played on the first line. I mean, explain that one to me.
I can't. I don't know.
This makes so little sense.
Yeah, he doesn't belong there.
Yeah. Okay, so my last question. How great was Paul Bissonnette on television last time with that Coyote hat? And
how great is he for the Coyotes? The fact that he just backs the team. I mean, he gives them national exposure that they just can't get otherwise, right?
Yeah.
You're on TNT, and they're having. Can I just say, by the way, that Turner's NHL coverage is so much better than ESPN's. It's so much more fun to watch. The NHL needed this. They needed personalities, needed to have fun. And you get a guy like Bissonnette in there who's just he's crazy. He has so much fun. I'm sure you've listened to Spittin' Chicklets, but he's a huge Coyote supporter too. He wears the pelt on his head. That's fantastic.
Then trying to break
exactly what I hope for.
Trying to break the stick, right, and fails. So I'll walk it off. Did you see Paul commercials featuring Paul Bissonnette? I mean, those are the best things ever. Like when he was in a CCM or Bauer stick commercial.
He's a natural on the camera, isn't he?
Yeah, and he actually makes fun of himself like all the time. But speaking of when he was on the Coyotes, he was also like a great energy in the locker room. They used to mention that he, even if he was on the lineup, he would come to the arena just to play music for the guys. And blah blah blah, and he was also a great energy, but still that was not enough to make him to make the roster every night. So maybe that's the same with kind of Christian Fischer. I don't think you get so much money and so much NHL exposure just for being a nice guy, right?
Yeah. The thing about Biz that I love is he had to fight his way. Scratch and claw his way to even have an NHL career. Yeah. He obviously didn't make a lot of money. He had to fight a lot, which takes its toll on your body. And he's very honest about that. He's had issues because of that. I'm just so happy for the guy to.
He's also suffering with depression, right? I mean,
he's been very open with all of that. But now he's got this great career in media. I'm happy for the guy because he's always been this big personality, and he's found a home, and he's really, really having success in his next career.
I think the greatest, well, apart from Shane Down, obviously, the greatest ambassador, I mean, any team could ask for, right? He's just fun. He's like, I don't know, you can't help but cheering for the Coyotes when he's like doing all this like crazy stuff he does on television, right? And he's doing that when the Coyotes are playing the Maple Leafs, which he is also a fan of. But then he has this Coyote hat and starts howling, and they have to check out if he's only drinking water or something, right? I mean, that's probably the greatest ambassador we could I don't know ask for. I mean,
no question.
Yeah. All right, Greg. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'm really happy that we could actually make this work at this time without any technical issues. So I hope this.
Yeah, I'm always happy.
Great.
Always happy to join you. Hey, let me leave you with one last thought here.
Sure.
Clayton Keller, we've alluded to a couple of times on this. Bill Armstrong told me the other day, and I reported this, that he now sees him as a major piece in their future. That's how much Clayton Keller has developed this season. He is playing so much more complete game than I have ever seen from him before.
Yeah.
Defense, away from the puck. He's producing points on a consistent basis. Now, we're only halfway through the season. I want to see him do this for an entire season.
Yeah.
But for the first time, I look at Clayton Keller now and I think, okay, and imagine adding an elite center to Clayton Keller's line, which he's never played with. For
Yeah.
the first time, I'm starting to look at Clayton Keller and think this guy could be an elite player in the NHL.
Yeah, and he's also like built a muscle, right? I mean, he got bigger.
Yeah, 7
which-
pounds.
Yeah, you can't just like fuck with him just like that, like you could in the past. Also, I love him because when I was in Arizona, he was actually one of the 3 or 4 guys that actually tried to get us pucks. But of course, stupid as I am, I was standing behind that part, like behind the net, when there's also the safety net, so that's almost impossible to get the puck
Right.
there. So I was like pretty dumb about it, but he tried, and I appreciate it.
He does that every game. Every game he does that. Tosses pucks to kids.
Yeah,
it's great.
that's amazing. So, but I really hope him. Also, I still have high hopes for Nick Schmaltz. I really think it develops into kind of a, because I always perceived him as this Ray Whitney kind of player, kind of I don't want to say wizard, but a guy who can create plays, like gives the Clayton Keller like player opportunities to score. And I hope he can do that. I know again, probably right now because he's been struggling. I have no idea why that's been happening, but maybe he just doesn't have the right players to play with.
Yeah, that's a tough one with Nick. I agree with you. They need more from him, and I know his hand was still hurting when he came back, and that was impacting him. That's why he's playing on the wing, because he can't take faceoffs because his hand's still hurting. So maybe it's a matter of working through an injury. But look, Nick Schmaltz hasn't shown consistency in his entire time with the Coyotes. They need more from him, especially because of that contract. I mean, he's going to be here because they're not going to be able to trade him. They need more from him.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, it's been an honor, Craig. Thank you. I hope this is not the last time we're talking.
Not at all.
That's amazing. So it's always great to get some Coyotes news because, well, there's a lot of things happening. Usually not so positive. So it's always it's always nice to at least have a nice chat about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Michael. Thanks so much for having me, bud.
Thank you. Okay. Take care.